Hello, hello, hello. Let's go ahead and get the microphone check out of the way early here. We got a couple minutes before we're going to get rolling into the charts. So go ahead and let me know if you can hear me okay across the various streams, including the public streams here on YouTube and Twitch. If you are on Twitch, go ahead and join the YouTube chat. You can find me at Landy's Crypto Corner on YouTube. As the plugin for the Twitch side of things is not working quite well. So if you do want to chat, head on over to the YouTube stream at Landy's Crypto Corner, and you can chat there. Also, if you heard none of this, I'll just have to repeat it. So go ahead and let me know if you can actually hear me in some of these chats. Okay, I am getting confirmation from some of these chats over here. Cool. And we've got Cheryl says she can hear me just fine. Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to get the music under control in just about a minute here, and we are running a little late today. I'll give you an explanation here in just a little bit, but short story: sick, illness, love it, love to hate it, but yeah, be back in just a moment. All right, let's get the music under control and we'll get this rolling here. Sorry, that fader is going to come down pretty quick, and pretty abrupt. Let's go ahead and get the music under control on my side, and we'll get rolling right into this. If I can hit the right buttons, we had another update to the live streaming software that completely broke everything. And yours truly has been under the weather. So let's go ahead and see if I have the right studio mode up here. And then that way we can get started and take a look at Bitcoin. Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is December 18th, 2023. And this is our Macro Monday Market Analysis live stream, where we take a look at the longer term timeframes and weave that into our shorter term timeframe analysis to give us a bias on direction across all the major markets. And in this case, we're going to start with Bitcoin, as we usually do, and then we're going to look at Dixie. We will then move over to gold and then take a look at traditional markets. Now, I do apologize for the stream being a little late today. Myself and my son have been under the weather. So dealing with fevers and aches and pains, so normal seasonal stuff that's kind of going around. So, of course, my son's also on vacation, and he got sick again right on the first day of vacation again. So gotta love it, although the last time it was not an illness, it was medical issues. But for those that know, and for those that aren't familiar, sometimes streams won't be on time because my son requires some medical assistance. He is disabled, so and now he's sick, and so am I. But let's go ahead and get into Bitcoin instead. No need to really explain that too much further. Illness, I'm here, and we will see if we have some more streams this week, but gonna have to play it by ear this week. But getting into Bitcoin here, we can see that if you are someone who has been around this channel for a little while, you'll recognize this Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart. It's very, very simple. Support and resistance with volatility bands. These are Bollinger Bands with volatility levels, first, second, and third standard deviations to the upside and downside here. And then a volatility metric in the corner there called the BBWP by Caretaker. It's just integrated into this indicator. It is free. You can find it in the link in the video description. Or if you followed me from x.com, formerly Twitter, it is always in my profile page there. You can always get the indicator for free. It is private indicator. It is not publicly listed, but it is free. You just need the link in order to add it to your charts. It's got a whole bunch of cool stuff in it. Anyway, we can see that, Bitcoin has now done what I was speaking about in the Bitcoin in 60 seconds video, and then the follow-up post below that most recent 60-second video. But that is that, Bitcoin losing the weekly here, likely to go test somewhere around the lows. And especially losing this weekly and the basis, going to test somewhere around the lows. If it does lose those lows, now we can look to the lower first as another area of interest. If we do see this low swept at around 40,150, we did get close today, coming in at 40,500. But if we do see another dip down there, being below the basis band would give us essentially a little bit more of a bias. If it does close below the basis band today, that things will come down and test somewhere around the lows again. To that lower first, which is likely to be right there at the lows. But this is just under $40,000, coming in at 39,740. So, does it have to hit it directly? No, I would just call it, 39.8 or so to the wick low here at 40,150. So if we do see this zone dropped between the lower first and that wick low of that swing, then I would be looking for a move to the weekly around $39,000, possibly down to this monthly here at 38,500. Now, if that does not hold up, you can see that the daily Bollinger Band's lower second standard deviation, as we are now seeing compression on the bands. This is still bullish compression, by the way. This is not bearish. Could it turn bearish? Maybe eventually, but as it stands right now, this is coming in on a major support level at this weekly prior to the breakout here at 37.7. So now we do have a confluent zone. This will move up after close today as well, somewhere around this monthly at 38.5. So another big confluent area, as we did get those, couple of rejections in and around this weekly to monthly area at 37.7 to 38.5. If we do see that area dropped, you can see where that lower third is starting to come in. Now, I would take SR levels into account here, though. We do have a swing low around 36,700 or so to the close open there at 37,250. I would say, keep an eye on that area. Otherwise, if that's lost, we're looking down in the next weekly at 36,2 to 3, somewhere by that lower third standard deviation from here. That is likely where the lower third is going to end up today at close. And on the other side of that, Bitcoin is going to keep mean reverting, swing. It's all based on losing this low at 40,150 and then subsequently losing the lower first, which is coming in slightly under there at that, 39,800. Then I'm looking for those supports to get tagged. If we do see the basis recovered and specifically the weekly at 41.8 to 42K, then we're looking right back up to this weekly here at 43.2 to the upper first, which is coming in at 43.7. It's swinging across the highs here, slightly higher than the most recent swing high, coming off this swing lower low. So we do have this swing low to a swing lower high to a swing lower low, swing lower high. So right now this is just a consolidation, but it is a bit of a downtrend on the daily. So if this is recovered at 41.8 to 42K, then we look to the weekly there at 43,200 to around the highs there at, the high came in at 43.5 on the swing, but I would want to see price getting above the upper first and closing above it. That would give us the bias that it's going to test up higher, not just swing this high and make a swing higher high. Want to see it close above there as well to get a downtrend break. So a close above this last swing high at that 43,475 would be a downtrend break. And then we could then subsequently look to see if we get a close above that upper first, wherever that is, and that's currently at 43,700. So above there, then I would look to the actual close open structures, which is around 40,000, 44,000 to 44.5 or so on the wicks here, to that wick high at 45.5. Above there, I'm looking right to that monthly. You can see the upper second standard deviation is up there as well, and that is going to be at 45.5. Above there, we start looking to the next monthly at around 47K, to the monthly swing high above it at 48.2 to 5. Now, the monthly swing high is coming in at 48.240 on the wick, but in this case, that I'd be looking for kind of a zone if we did see price trading up that way. So this is what I'm going to be watching this week, as well as probably over the Christmas break here in the United States, which is going to last for many Americans. A lot of schools are out, and a lot of people take time off work the week of Christmas, and sometimes the week before, like this week, where school is out for many kids. Now, in this case, you do get professionals that will sometimes take the time off on the week before and the week of, and even the week after, coming into the first of the year. They kind of set things up in the last quarter for the first quarter of next year. So that could be what we're seeing already going on this week. Skeleton crews probably, yeah. So I got Jimmy over there in the chats that cannot access YouTube and Twitch via their networks when they are at work. For Jimmy over there, yeah, you guys are skeleton crew at the prop shop right now, right? Yeah, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and move over to the chart that we typically use on the streams here, which has all of our other stuff on it. We'll get back to the Bitcoin in 60 seconds charts as we go a little bit higher time frame. But I do want to point out where things are on the daily in terms of where they are on the weekly. So we're going to head over to the weekly here, and you can see that we have the daily Bollinger Band layout on the right here, and then we have the weekly Bollinger Band. So there is, this is a free indicator that you can pick up. It's called the Landy Bands multi-time frame levels made by JRTA. Now, we are working on integrating this into the Landy Bands indicator, but it is still separate right now. You can see that I have it set to just reference the daily on the right-hand side of the Bollinger Band. So no matter which time frame I go to, I know where those Bollinger Bands are on the daily. So we're going to go up to the weekly, just so you could see that even if the daily starts to get expansion to the downside. So we got daily Bollinger Bands up here, right? So those are the daily Bollinger Bands. So even if we did see a breach below, it's already below the basis, right? Price is right at the basis, I should say, at that 41.7 area for the daily. But if it does hang out below there and start to creep down to that lower first and even breach it, there is the weekly upper first. Now, this would be mean reversion on the weekly. So we could even see a bit of expansion down, or mean reversion that starts to get expansion down on the daily, that then is just mean reversion on the weekly. So this is still very bullish as it stands right now. This is the first red candle that we've seen in quite a long time here on Bitcoin on the weekly here. So, it is a little overextended, but you got to understand that when we see, expansion on some of the longer term timeframes, as we're going to look at, this is entering a little bit of a mean reversion phase at the moment, or cool down phase for price volatility on the weekly, but we're still getting expansion on those longer term timeframes. So when we look at some of the higher term timeframes in just a moment, you're going to see that, we're still getting expansion to the upside in this case. And even if we do see mean reversion on the daily with expansion to the downside, it's still just mean reversion on some of these longer timeframes. Now, below that 39,740, 39.8 area is the upper first standard deviation, coming in at 38,500. That's right at that monthly area that we just talked about. That is a monthly SR level that we just referenced on the Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart. And if we did start to see, we start to see things breaking down below 37.7 at the lower second. So that would be expansion right into the weekly below price action. So on the daily, that would be, breaching this area where the upper first on the weekly is, and then heading down to this area here. Now, we can reverse this. Let's go ahead, and so we can reference the daily. We can go here and we can say, let's go look at the weekly real quick for the actual Landy Band levels, and then we'll go back to the daily. So I wanted to walk you through that. We had the daily on the weekly chart. Now we have the weekly on the right with the daily Bollinger Bands on the left here, bracketing live price. So you can see that even getting below the lower first, lower second, that would all just be mean reversion back to the basis on the weekly. So the basis on the weekly is now at 32,400. So that's actually, funny enough, where is that? Well, that's this area here. That would be breaking down below all of these supports here where we've got a weekly, a monthly, two weeklies, and then a monthly and another weekly. Well, then we have this ever important daily area just above. This is an untested redistribution on the daily from the bear market that redistributed to new lows at 32,450. Now below there is the daily, weekly, monthly area of the actual monthly open for the breakdown candle that sent everything down to 17.5 and then subsequently 15.5 for the macro low. So that's a big important area. You can see that that is also now the basis band of the weekly is above that area. So very cool. You want to see that. You also want to see what we're already seeing on the weekly here. So if we jump over to the weekly chart, we've got a bunch of arrows because of what I was just doing there with the lower term time frame. But you can see the lower first is now at 26,237. It is just almost right at this low at that 26,500 area, 26,500. Let's see, 521 in this case for the weekly on spot price. So I do want to see the lower first above this prior low and preferably above this swing high right here at around 28,600, which guess what? It's also a weekly. So that is this wick low over here, by the way. 28 to 28.5 is a big area. So, you know, we do have some confluence there with some swings in terms of the swing lows, and that's all coming from the prior market cycle. So that would be big. I'm not expecting things to head back there, at least not immediately, but I would say that it is something to pay attention to as we do. You know, we do have a shift in momentum. We do have currently a cool down, but not confirmed on the weekly. So we were getting that weekly that I talked about last week, that weekly look on volatility, where volatility drops below the moving average, but the moving average does not yet have a negative slope. Even if it gets a neutral slope, it's only once it gets a negative slope that now we're biased towards potential spikes to the upside being just that. So meaning, say we have something like this. Let me actually make sure that my brush is going to be, so say we get BBWP down here and then the moving average curls over with it. And then BBWP sharply spikes up through the moving average. In this case, being above the basis band on the weekly means that that spike in volatility would be to the upside, because if it's headed back towards the basis, it's going to continue to cool down. So there's a scenario where we get the BBWP and moving average curling over, and then you see a spike up. This is one scenario where what this would mean is that last spike up in volatility would be hitting the highs of the Bollinger Bands. And likely would finish out that particular move. Now, the other scenario, that would be like, you know, Bitcoin's getting, you know, the upper seconds above the highs, and then it goes and tags the monthly one more time and then heads it down and actually does its full mean reversion back to the basis, or it hangs out sideways and the basis ticks up and the mean reverts that way. Now, in this case, we could see a scenario like that, but we don't yet have that in play. So what we have here is where we just have the moving average still pointed up, and let's say it flattens out, and then we have volatility then come back up, and then we have the moving average move up with it. That's where the downside move is, you know, the little bit of mean reversion in price there is just a bit of a cool down, and we're looking for continuation of the current move. So we're in the first, or we're not in the first scenario that I just showed you where, you know, volatility curls over and the moving average curls over, we are in the volatility gets under the moving average part. Moving average still pointed to the upside. So that does mean that if we see a volatility spike, that's only going to occur if price moves up. So if you're looking at the weekly bands and we see BBWP move up from a 67.46, that means that price is rising on the weekly towards that upper second. So that, and if it closes by that upper second, meaning somewhere around, 43, that's also the upper second on the daily, or no, this is the weekly band. Sorry. That would be 44,650. So somewhere around the current daily highs and weekly high up here. If we see price closing up there, what will happen is BBWP will move back up, likely above the moving average here. So I do want you to pay attention to this this week. We're going to pay close attention to price action, because then we could potentially just see, BBWP get under the moving average for a tick or two and then continue its expansion to the upside, which is very much likely still right now. And that scenario that I'm explaining to you is the one that is currently in play. Now, if we end the week and we see, coming into Christmas Day or something like that, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, when this closes on the 24th, that, it's under the moving average and the moving average starts to flatten out, then we have to be aware that either scenario is in play, because if the moving average is flat, we're getting no signal. That likely means that price is either stagnant and sideways, and or it's come back down to somewhere around the upper first or lower back towards the basis. It really depends on how far price goes down in that case. So in this case, mean reversion is in play. It is not fully confirmed. And even when in mean reversion, we could eventually see a spike back up. It's all about watching this moving average currently. It's still set for, or giving us the indication that the upside is more likely. And if we see a closure up near the upper second by the end of the week, then we're looking for continuation to new highs. As it stands right now, it's wait. It's watch and wait. So let's go ahead and compare that to where the daily is in terms of momentum, because excuse me, I tried to not cough in the microphone, but I accidentally did. My apologies. We can see that the weekly is pivoted at 44,000 for the momentum pivot. So again, it's right around the close open highs here. The close is at 43,800. I would say any kind of a close on the weekly back above 43,800 is going to start to swing momentum back around anyway. In this case, let's go look at the daily though, because the daily is going to be pretty interesting. We see that the daily is, below the basis, so we do have to take that into account, but we could end up seeing a bit of a double bottom here. I would be aware of that. We will, of course, see that the lower first is probably going to move up somewhere around the current lows in the next tick if price doesn't get there first. And then we'll start to see further compression of the base of the bands here because Bitcoin is trading right around that basis band. In this case, any close back above 43,200. Hey, where did we see that before? Well, that's the weekly over here. The weekly is that 43,200. So if we did see a close, of course, above the basis, which Bitcoin is currently trading below at 41,720, and especially a reclaim of 41.8 to 42K at this weekly, then where are we looking? We're looking at 43.2. 43.2 just happens to be the daily momentum pivot. So I could show you this on the Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart. It is a little bit easier to see here. So 43.2 going to be the momentum pivot. Big thing to be watching today. Now, of course, in the daily closure today, provided Bitcoin doesn't dump out much further than where it is now and lose that 40,150 low and go and test in and around that weekly at 39,000, maybe the monthly at 38.5, where we do have confluences as well, then I would be looking for this number to be a little bit more palatable. It's probably going to come down somewhere around, the upper $42,000 area, maybe even, around this high here at 42,680. or the close open here, which came in at around 42 300. It's 42 240. I'd say 42 300, but you'd still want to see that swing taken out to even go test the current momentum pivot. But I do think that momentum pivot's going to start coming down pretty quickly here as Bitcoin kind of goes sideways around the lows. Now, it's going to continue to chase, so watch it if we do see this low drop. This swing low at 40,150 and that lower first at around the upper $39,000 area. If that is dropped, we're looking right down to that 39K to 38.5. So that's kind of how that all fits into the daily from the weekly. And we don't really need to get too far or too deep into the monthly, as we're going to really start working on looking at that after the holidays here coming into the close of the month. But we should look at the 2 week because the 2 week did just open. And what do you know? This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Let's turn our side panel here back to the daily instead of the weekly, so we can see where the daily Bollinger Bands are in relation to the 2 week Bollinger Bands. So volatility levels are still expanding to the upside here. They are also getting expansion to the downside. After a compression, whenever you see expansion again, you're going to see upper standard deviations and lower standard deviations get expansion when we see BBWP increase. Of course, aggressive increases occur on closures above the upper second or below the lower second. In this case, we're closing above the upper second. We have a 46/28 read on BBWP. And this is a bullish AF read, just so you understand. This is bullish. All right. This does mean that these moves back down in price from the volatility standpoint are more likely to be picked up. That is what we're seeing. We do now have a nice new close open with continuation of volatility expansion. You can see that the upper second standard deviation was closed above. Now we've got the upper second standard deviation around $41,000. Now below there, well, what do you know? The upper first is coming in right around that monthly. Now it is, to be fair, it's about $500 above that monthly support, which is what you want to see. You want to see your standard deviations above support and resistance areas when you're, in this case, bullish and a move to the upside. So in this case, we could even see a wick through it to the monthly. That would also be around the lower third on the daily. So you could see that even on expansion down below the lower second on the daily at 37.7, that upper first on the 2 week and the weekly and everything else is coming in with those areas, right? Those important areas. Of course, the basis on the weekly is a little bit lower, but we have the upper first here on the 2 week around that 35, that around that 35.5 monthly, slightly above it, coming in just shy of $36,000. This is bullish. Hey, guess what? If it gets lost, the daily would be in an expansive move to the downside, but look at where the basis is coming in on the 2 week. Hey, it's above this last 2 week closure, and that's coming in at a weekly closure as well at 30,613 there. Love to see it. This is bullish. If anyone really thinks that this is bearish, you just got to look at the data and you got to let go of bias. Now, what I will say is this is bullish for what time frame? The 2 week, the weekly, the 3 week, so on and so forth, right? So understand the context. The daily might become bearish if we're getting expansion to the downside, but in the context of the larger structure, it would be very bullish and needed, quite frankly. I think well needed. Now, does that mean that that's going to happen? Absolutely not. Bitcoin's still hanging around the basis band of the Bollinger Bands on the daily. Yes, it is slightly below there. I'm not concerned about it. If it does come down, there's still, horizontal support and resistance areas on longer term time frames to be looking at, specifically the weeklies and monthlies. All right. We can, we can preview what we're going to be talking about on Friday, which hopefully I'll be able to stream on Friday. But, any closure above the upper second, which is slightly below the daily basis band, is coming in at 40,800 here on the 3 week chart. It's just continuation. We have confirmed expansion on the 3 week. We even have the lower standard deviations beginning to curl up. That lower first being above this major wick low at 19.5 is very good. The basis band being above the double bottom down here, and that's coming in now at 27,350. This is all very bullish, and the upper first being it's above this swing low of the higher low to lower high swing from the bear market start there. So it's really this is bullish. It's all bullish. It's $34,000. It's slightly below the monthly there. 34,750. There's a weekly around that area, and this is coming in at 34 even. This will close and then update. So, we're likely to see this somewhere around the lows here at 34,750 to $35,000 at that monthly. Which, when I'm referencing that, just know that there is that monthly down here at $35,000 and 34,750. That was that beautiful spike low, almost to the penny that we called back there. I mean, we've been getting just about every darn move on this level by level, very close to the dollar, if not, within like 50 or 60 bucks in most cases here. It's been hitting the levels very cleanly. So, this is, again, bullish. This is only just starting to get expansion. And guess what? This is what you want to look for on the 3-week. This is beautiful. All right. The moving average is turned up and we're getting confirmed expansion. Now it's not, I want to see one more tick, that being this weekend's tick. So when this closes, we're going to see expansion continue, and we'll also see the moving average continue. I want to see one more tick. So provided Bitcoin does not dump out back to the basis band specifically, which is at 27,350, nothing's out of the question, but it does seem a little unlikely from here. Doesn't mean that it can't happen, but as long as it's above there by close on Sunday, this coming Sunday, this looks very, very good. 4-week, well, we've got 2 weeks to close this. So this is coming in after, we've got, let's see, we've got this weekend. It's going to close on the 31st into the 1st of the year. So gotta love it, right? Right? Is that correct? That's going to close, so 24th, and then, it'll, man, it's closing on the 31st. So, we've got, it should. You will get some bleed over from some of the candles over into next year because of just the nature of how they're going to close. But at the end of the year, it should all sync up on, these major time frames. So we're going to have this coming in at, with the monthly, of course, and the 2-month and the quarterly and the 6-month and the yearly. And you can split up any other months or any other time frames really that you like there. 2-day is going to be something to pay attention to. I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but I wanted to show you the context. 2-day is something to pay attention to coming into close today. Why? Because, it's just kind of solidifying that some of this is going to be some major resistance overhead. The upper first, specifically at 42,350 or so. So again, that's, that's going to be some heavy resistance locally, but if it can reclaim that, we would see the daily start to turn back up. That would also indicate on the, that would indicate a recovery of the daily basis band, indicating that we're going to test somewhere around that, weekly at 43,200 to the upper first on the daily at 43.7 currently. And if it closes above the upper first on the 2-day, then the upper second on the 2-day, which is coming in slightly below the upper second on the daily here, is in play, and that's currently around the highs at 45,185 to, of course, the 45.7. There's a monthly up there at 45.5, so that's kind of where I'd be looking if we do see rather an upper first reclaim that can reclaim the weekly, and on the 2-day reclaim the weekly SR level at 43.2 and the upper first on the daily, then I'd be looking for the top side. But there is significant resistance now overhead at the upper first on the 2-day here, coming in at that 42.4, and then the upper first on the daily coming in just above the swing high here at 43.5 to 43.7. Now, if we do see a closure below the basis on the daily and the upper first on the 2-day. Then the basis on the 2-day and the lower first on the daily becomes primary targets. Those are all coming in just shy of $40,000, $39.5 for the basis on the 2-day here, and the lower first is coming in slightly above there, and that's from the daily coming in at 39,750. So we're likely to see these right around that low at 40,000. For the daily basis is probably going to come in somewhere around there as well. We're going to start seeing the basis on the 2-day line up with this lower first here on the daily. We have the lower first on the 2-day is now getting, right into the thick of this breakout structure to swing low on the 2-day to consolidation before breakout. It's coming in on the low side, but it's going to keep ticking up. So we're looking at 36,669. Nice, likely to be somewhere around $37,000. Very, very, very nice, actually. We also have the lower second now right at this order block here on the 2-day chart, and this is coming in with a low wick of 33,400. It was a big area that we were calling out during that sideways and up consolidation. We got the close down there at 33.9 to 34,000. We got the open on that candle, close open coming in at 34,500 with the wick high coming in at 34,850 or so. So this order block right here is kind of bracketed around this lower second. Would be a very nice mean reversion, although I would want to see it hit the top side somewhere around the monthly at 35 to 34,750 if that were to happen. Not my first take on what's going on here. Now, Stoke is pointed to the downside on any closes below 44,100, but if we do start to see the daily flip around, keep an eye on that 2-day. So, wow, that's going to be a lot for Bitcoin there. We can go ahead and we can get a preview of what the, what the lower second's doing here on the 12-hour real quick in relation to the daily. So this is on the 1-day basis bands on the right here, and we have the 12-hour basis bands right here. The daily levels are on the right, and then we've got our 12-hour time frame with the live bands here. Now, we do have a potential setup here happening on the 12-hour. If we see any kind of a close back above the open here, we could get a 3-candle closing structure, and that's coming in at around 41.9 to 42K. That would also be back above on a closing basis the daily basis band. Just be aware that we do want to see this little close to swing high at that 42.5, 42.7 area taken out to go test the weekly at 43.2. But be aware of this structure here. This was mean reversion back to a base. We have compression. So if we do see a 3-candle structure, that reclaims the lower first on the 12-hour, we are biased then to go test the basis. That is at that 43.260 area. If it can take out the swing at 42, 5 to 7, I would be looking for the weekly to get tagged again at 43.2 to somewhere around the daily upper first up here, as the 12-hour upper first is going to be right around this. It's already at this close open at 43.270, so this would be the next big area. So take out, basically 42.4. We're looking at 43.2. At the upper first. That's also a low. We can look to see what momentum it would be doing here. On any closes above 42,000, we would get a momentum shift, at least initially. We'd have to wait for the next closure. So basically what this would be is by close today, if we see price close above 42,000, then we wait for the first 12-hour candle, which is going to happen overnight for me, to close and see what the momentum pivot updates to see if we get an actual shift, meaning K over the D read initially for this, evening closure for me or daily closure. And then we're going to see it tick up in the first 12-hour session. We'll get a pivot and then we'll see what that moves up to. But you need to see a low set. That's going to come on any closes above 41.9. And then you need to see the swing taken out at 42.680 to go test 43.2 at the weeklies. So that is the setup right now for Bitcoin's 12-hour chart. If we look at the RSI, you can see that this would also populate a hidden bull div, at minimum indicating that it's going to test up further around some of those areas that we just talked about. So this is what I'm going to watch coming into close today on some of the medium-term timeframes below the daily. That's going to be a little bit different, like the 4-hour. We are already seeing a momentum shift. There's already a low in 40,800 is going to be the momentum pivot. The basis on the 4 hours right around the basis on the daily, indicating that this, it does want to go test this swing that we were just talking about, 42 to 42, 4 basically. And then above there, we're looking up a bit higher, possibly to, around that 42,750 that we were just talking about on the 12-hour. So, I would keep an eye on it. If we get a 4-hour move up in momentum, starts to break some of the downtrending structure on a swing basis and then a close basis, 12-hour shifts, then we look to the daily. Setup in that case would be to go and retest the weekly above, the 2 weeklies above 41.8, which is testing right now, 43.2, and then possibly the highs again in the 44 area. If we see 44 closed above, then we're looking for, 43.2 the weekly. We're looking for a daily shift. 44 is going to be the weekly there. So looks good. No problems with price here. All right, I'm going to give my voice just a little rest here and look at the chat, see who's here, say hellos and stuff like that. So we are going to turn on the music for just a moment here, and then we'll get into Dixie, gold, and whatever else I look at. Traditional markets. It's like literally something I do every day, and trading options on, all that fun stuff, but can't remember. My apologies again. I'm under the weather a little bit. Let me go ahead and just hit the music. I do need to rest my voice for just a moment. That'll give you a chance to rest your brains from my voice as well. So let me go ahead and get this up there. A little bit of background music. I'm going to mute for just a moment and read chat. Well, actually, let me read the public chat here and say hi to you guys. I already said hi to all you guys in the private chats. Hi, Cheryl. Hi, Roka. Hi, No Name. No Name, you're in 2 chats. I just heard your voice in the other one. Are you there? Okay, you are over there at the shop. Cool. We've got Spin, Bobby. Hello. Don, hello. Good to see you, my friend. Don rarely is able to show up, although I did get a message from him like, hey, you gonna you do a stream today? Like, hey, sorry, dude. We're gonna be a little late. Let's see. Bobby's here. Yep. Sam, hello. Cheryl, hello. Baba is here. Hey, nice to see you, buddy. It's been a little while. I know you were in the last stream. Good to see you. I hope you are well. Ivan is here with his caps. All caps, kid. Man, you got to get rid of the all caps. You got to start. It's just like you're screaming at everyone in the chat. That's what all caps is. So if you are fairly new to the internet, all caps is yelling, especially when you're in a chat room. So who is celebrating the Bills win yesterday, Bobby? I was celebrating the Bills win. That's what. Yeah. That's why I was late. I was still celebrating from yesterday. It was a good game. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys forgot to come to that game, but it was a good game from my team, the Bills. Yeah. They didn't even use Josh Allen. Allen was just like, I think he said something after the game, something about like, feel like the guy that showed up, or the guy on the project that just showed up and got an A. Yeah. That was a James Cook coming out party apparently. But yeah, I mean, that's going to help the Bills obviously, because the Bills get that they needed to win, and then make the Cowboys a little angry and a little like we need some redemption. And who do they play next week? They play our division rivals, the Dolphins there, who are heating up again on offense. So hopefully Dallas just absolutely squishes the fish. Feel like, we need a redemption game. We need to show our defense can slow you down. And it just so happens that, Dolphins do have quite a potent running game, but if they go to the passing game, that's really Dallas's strong suit there. You can get that pass rush on Tua, get him off that first read, make him go through his full progression, especially if he doesn't have Waddle. Or I'm sorry, if he doesn't have Tyreek, then, they can concentrate on locking down Waddle with Gilmore. Okay, I said I was going to rest my voice. Let me rest my voice real quick. Bobby, I do enjoy talking football with you, my friend. One of the few people from outside of the United States that I know that really knows the game very well. Yeah, let me rest my voice for just a moment. If any of you have any comments or questions or anything pertaining to what we just talked about for Bitcoin here, go ahead and put them in the chat there. If it's related to Bitcoin, something like, if you want me to look at Bitcoin dominance or total market cap or something like that, or if you have a question specifically about Bitcoin, go ahead and get it in the various chats. I'm going to rest my voice for just a moment. But not altcoins right now or anything like that. I'm probably not going to do altcoins today, but if you have Bitcoin related stuff, go ahead and all right, so in the private chats, I'm getting trolled already. Well, altcoins do relate to Bitcoin because of yeah, we're not Bitcoin pairs. Come on, what I was just talking about. Yeah. All right, let me peruse the chats here. Let me rest my voice for just a minute. I will be right back. All right, let me go ahead and get the music under control here. Took a little drink of some water and some coffee, so I think I'm good here. So I brought up Bitcoin dominance. Bobby says, yes, go ahead, please look at Bitcoin dominance. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at it. One of the big things that, I saw a lot of YouTubers and Crypto X now, or Crypto Twitter guys, as they were formerly known. I guess I'm one of them. Although I have a very small accounts across the board these days. It is on the daily, just tagging the basis. This would be a nice low set if it can close above this prior swing. And we're going to turn on the swing chart just so that you can see that between closes and swings, you must understand that swing doesn't necessarily mean a trend change. It would be a swing trend change, but you do want to see closes above prior swings. So the swing high is going to be at 53.42%. Currently trading slightly above there at 53.45. So if we do see a close above there that can subsequently reclaim the basis band on the daily here, then I'd be looking for Bitcoin dominance to head up a little bit more. You can also see there was a nice rejected wick high here, right around the basis band where that currently is at 53.5 or so. Above there, I'm looking to the upper first around 54%. I was seeing a lot of guys like predicting that Bitcoin dominance is going to be somewhere in the 60s by this time this month. And I remember the last time we looked at it, I said, yeah, I don't think that's viable right now. Maybe 55. We got the 55 spike, 55.25. But it's going to take a while for dominance to crawl its way up to the 60 read. It's even got to get up to this 58. And yes, you can generally take some SR levels. You can see that it's holding SR levels. It's just the nature of how price action works in relation to the price action on altcoins. And, dominance is a bit subjective because of the way that it's measured in dollars and market share of dollars in the market and so on and so forth. So liquidity share, that kind of stuff. So I would, I'm not looking for Bitcoin to really head up there until we see the weekly start closing above the upper second standard deviation to start really getting legs up. And that's going to happen on closes basically above 55% and take out that wick high at 55.25. Then, I'm looking at 58 to 60. That's, well, it's still possible this month. I'm not really looking for it until, if that's going to happen, it's going to happen probably first quarter of next year. It is close. We could see that the weekly might start painting it coming into the end of the first quarter. And then, it is still possible. Closes above 53.4%. Again, where Bitcoin dominance is trading right now on the weekly time frame, would turn momentum back to the upside. You can see that we do still have a swing structure that is higher low and higher high bias, but the closing structure is lower. This is a consolidation closing structure, to be quite honest. There's no high put in on a close here. If it closed back below, the open over here at 52.5, then we'd have a swing uptrend, but we'd have a closing etchings of a possible consolidation to downtrend, but by putting in a lower high. But in this case, there's nothing really to be made of this. Sitting above the upper first is biased towards that 54 to 55%. And then we come back to it, see where it closes this week. Looks good. If it does drop put in a high on a close, it would start really playing out this bearish divergence that you see up here on the weekly time frame. And I would be looking for the swing low, which is around the daily lower third rather, which is coming in at the weekly basis somewhere around 51.5 to 50% on the closes. So that's yeah. So that's kind of what I'd be looking at. Hold on one second. Can you give me just a second? My son needs some assistance. So as I've mentioned before, he is disabled. So I want to go check on him real quick. I'm going to mute for just a moment. I'll come right back and we'll wrap up Bitcoin and dominance. Okay, sorry about that. My son's looking as though he might have some related stuff, so we're making some phone calls right now. I'm going to end up wrapping this up a little bit early today. So Bitcoin dominance, it's not quite a reversal setup yet to answer Don's question, but you know, looks fine. This is an uptrend on the monthly. To answer Bobby's question, it can even come down to the upper first, somewhere around 51 to 50%, and still be fine. You just don't want to see it closing back below 48.92. Then it's gonna, get mean reversion back down. You're likely seeing alts do a little bit better there. So considering where Bitcoin is, unless Bitcoin really dumps off, it would be a strong pullback, or pulling back from a position of strength for Bitcoin. Probably benefit some alts in the shorter term time frames, and then everything dumps out all to hell, and then Bitcoin dominance rises. So Bitcoin dominance rises on the moves down for price action, and on the moves up in general. So in this case, on the daily, it's looking like it does want to test up a little bit further, and it's above the moving average even on RSI. So it does look as though it currently wants to go test, into the 54 to 55%, and then come back to it later to see if it actually, holds if it actually holds that swing high as a rejected zone at around that 55.25%. Let's go ahead and take a look at Dixie real quick, and then I'm gonna get to gold real quick after that. Dixie on the daily, nice strong bounce off the lower second and lower third, but the big area, to be aware of is 102.78. It did get our target there below 102 into the upper 101.80 area, which is this swing low over here. It's still getting expansion down. This is valid expansion, 73 over 60. So, it's likely to play around the lows. But it's still, because it is volatile, it can still bounce all the way up to the upper first and still be bearish. And that's at 103.96, so basically 104, to the highs here at 104.21. Now, if it does break above there, then I'd be looking for a run to 104.5, deeper 104 area, and probably get a rejection around there, then come back to it. Probably ends up consolidating. But as it stands right now, it's all pressure down on expansion, so it's still downside angled. Below 104, it is going to be that downside angle. So, that's the upper first on the daily. I'd be looking for this to continue to head down. From the weekly perspective, we also see that, this is still downside angled below that same area at 104. It's 103.96 for both the daily and the weekly. We can see that this is the lower second down here. If we start to see this closing below the lower second and losing that swing low at 101.70, then we're starting to look somewhere around the close open lows down here at 101.25 to 50, and then the swings at, this was, 101.25 to 50, and then we're looking down to somewhere around the upper $100 range to 100.5, and then possibly 100 and the lows down there at just under 100 at the 99, 99.60, 99.50 area. As it stands right now, this is a trend break to a swing low to swing high back down. So technically on a swing basis, it is, it is a bit of a, even on a close basis, it did put in a low here on a close. Did not pass the wick high. So closing low, it is a valid downtrend now on the weekly, but it's just very slight. So that 104.21 to 104 area is going to be very important if we do see Dixie trading back above there. Otherwise, it's, looking to test these lows. If it does drop them, then, hey, guess what? It's probably going to be good things coming or continuing in traditional markets and indices and assets in general. Not necessarily a good thing for your pockets and your everyday life, I can tell you that much. So many people that just living their lives day to day aren't invested in these markets, so they're not seeing the benefits of these things happening, and end up just getting killed at the register everywhere they go. So as happy as you might be about the markets, it's all relative because you're losing buying power in general. So you need the markets to make it up that much faster. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump over to gold real quick. And we're going to go gold. Gold is consolidating right in the zone that we had previously talked about. Oh, it's ugly. Let's zoom in a little bit. So we do need to see the levels here. We could see the 2 weeklies here that gold is consolidating in. Nice swing high break. Did not close above this wick high, though. We need a closure above 2,040 bucks to then go retest that upper first area, which is right around that 2,040 bucks. Take out this high at 2,050 to go test the upper second standard deviation to the high on a close, and that's coming in at 2,063 to around the close there, 2,070. Above there, we're looking for 2,080, and the highs again at 2,150. If it does lose the basis here at 2020, keep an eye on the lower first somewhere around $2,000 to this high on a close here at around 2006. If that area is lost, then I'm looking right back to this ever important zone at 1980 to 1965. That area needs to hold. Otherwise, it's going to be a quick trip down to 1950 and then 1920 or so. On the weekly, we're getting the same kind of bias on the upper first area being around that 2016 weekly here. It is slightly below, so it can play wick catcher. And the basis is right there on a major support around 2016. So that does mean if this area is dropped on a weekly close, then we're looking to, the support structure 2006 on the daily, even down to 2000. Below there, we're looking to the wicks into this support area on the daily on the daily at 1980 to 1965. Below there, it's the basis, which is coming in on the weekly at 1950. Looks like a little bit of a mess here, but just note, hold $2,000 basically. Above there, it's more biased to keep heading up and testing, but it needs to break out above 2,050 bucks to go and test the actual highs again, to kind of simplify that. Looking at traditional markets, we can see that Dow has not yet put in a high on the daily, and 37,360 is going to be the momentum pivot, and it is below there, but as long as it's above the prior all-time high at 36,950 and the daily upper first around 36,8, then I'm looking for continuation to the upside to keep testing around its current highs that it just put in today on a higher high basis. If it does lose that area, we're looking for some mean reversion back to test this high side structure somewhere around 36.2 to 36.260. Below there, the basis is coming in on the low side of this consolidation structure around 36K to 36.1. That's the big area that I'd be watching to the downside, because if that is lost, then we're just stepping it down to this next 3 candle consolidation right around these highs, in the mid $35,000 area to upper $35,000 area by the lower first. Now it's going to be kind of like 35.4 to 35.8 basically is what I'd be looking for, only if the basis band is lost, and that's at 36 to 36.1. So this little consolidation. Now, if we do see this continue up, we're looking at 37,530 to 37.6 or so on the upper second to the upside short term on the daily. When looking at the weekly, we're looking at upper second is also going to be right around where price is at this 37,250 area for the upper second. Price is about 50 bucks above there. If that is lost, then we're looking to that, of course, upper first around 36.8 on the daily. Below there, the basis band on the daily also has the upper first on the weekly lining up there. Big confluent area around 36 to 36.1. So that's what I'd be looking for on pullbacks. If that area was lost, we already talked about the lower first on the daily, which is lining up with this weekly as well, right around the mid $35,000 area. Otherwise, it's, we're looking to the upside. Upper third standard deviation isn't something I'd be looking for immediately, and that's up at 38,520 on the weekly. So I would just be, just keeping an eye on it. Closures below 36,284 would turn momentum to the downside. That would be initial only. And we're not seeing any in-trend bearish divergence off of this current trend break. We need to see a higher low at some point, so we could be setting up for that coming into the early part of next year. But as it stands right now, it's still just an uptrend and an up move. So I would look for continuation as well. Where BBWP is still over the moving average for this. We also, are just beginning expansion on something like NASDAQ, which is going to test its all-time high today. Very, very nice stuff here. We've got the all-time high coming in at 16,764. Did it get tested? It did. Wait, did that get tested to the penny? We were calling for it, but just shy. So 16,764.32, and its resistance is at 16,764.86. I'd be looking for this to break, especially on closes above 16,680 or so. At the upper second, I'd be looking for continuation. This is valid expansion. I'm looking for the all-time high and higher. We could see what's called a replace of the bands on expansion at close today. Close above the upper second, that moves up to the current highs, and then we get another move up of the upper third. So I would be looking somewhere around 17,000 initially as the next big area to the upside on expansion, and then we just take it one step at a time until we start to see a reversal structure. Closures above 16,700 are also going to be continued upside from a momentum perspective. So we've got trend, volatility, we've got trend, support, and resistance. If the resistance breaks, we're looking for around 17,000. So your trend is an uptrend. Support resistance area, it's right in a key area, getting expansion into it. We see it break, we're looking for higher. Volatility is telling us that this is going to continue expanding and testing those highs at minimum, as long as it's above the basis, which is all the way down at 16,125. And especially above the upper first around 16,400 to 500. So this is all basically to say that we just need to see support and resistance. We have the momentum piece there as well. As long, this breaks 17,000 is probably on the board pretty quickly. From the weekly perspective as well, upper second is just starting to get rolling here. If it does close above 16,675, so again 16,700, we just talked about that. And the momentum pivot is at 16,650, so everything would still be in line for continuation into next week's candle, provided that it can, push on through that all-time high now. And, this is something we talked about quite a lot, that we were going to see all-time highs again, and that's what we're seeing. So, and we are starting to get there with SPY. SPY's got a little bit more resistance. It is starting to get its expansion. It's not quite as aggressive as what we saw. As you can see, there was a swing low, so there is higher low structure coming off of this consolidation already. Can it tap these highs and then come back down? Sure. But if we see it close above the upper second here at 472 to 473, it's going to go test that 475 high here. Or I'm sorry, 473 high. And we're looking for 475 to 476, and then the all-time high at 480 and above. If it does lose the upper first, I would look back to the basis. The upper first is coming in at 465. I'd be looking at 460 as the next key area, and that's the top side of this consolidation over here. Below there, we're looking at the lower first, which is coming in at the bottom side of that consolidation at 450 to 453. So really, really easy on SPY. It's basically above 473 are the highs here. 472 to 473. We're looking for 475 to 480 at the all-time high. If we see 465 dropped, that would be below this most recent swing low, and then we're looking for 460 below there. We're looking for 450 to 455, basically somewhere in this consolidation. If that were to be dropped, then we're looking at 448, 447 at the lower second, possibly come down for a gap fill. Doesn't mean it's going to get filled, but that's somewhere around 440. It'd be, if everything else is pushing towards new highs, I would expect this to follow, especially if NASDAQ is really going to make its expansion known in the next day or two. We'll find out. A little bit of a Santa rally into Christmas, maybe. or a big fat rejection right at the highs, and then we come back to it later. But right now, Dow's already broke out. It's likely going to break out to new highs on NASDAQ, and then SPY maybe follows a little later, and then we come back to it. But yeah, that's going to be it for today for traditional markets. We covered Bitcoin extensively. We covered Dixie, gold, and traditional markets now. Because I do have, we're going to end up taking my son to the doctors here to get checked out. I'm going to actually let you guys go. And I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. I will turn on the music for a little bit here as the stream will turn itself off automatically. And then let's see. We're going to do 20. And then the stream will cut off automatically. So if you want to listen to some tunes or rewind the stream and take a listen, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, let's go ahead and get tunes back on here. And I'm going to bid you a wonderful day. And there we go. There we go. Let's go here. Yep. All right. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out. Yeah, Robert, it is, I think, picking up. Let me just get it back on the Bitcoin screen for our outro here. If you want to scroll back through, you can see it's headed to our 42.4 area that we were talking about. Very, very nice. Throw this on a 15-minute chart. You can see it's above the daily basis band. It's likely going to go test those areas that we were talking about. Again, reference that 12-hour setup that I talked about in relation to that 4-hour setup coming in at close today, because it is looking like things want to just head up and test at minimum the weekly above at 43.2 over time, if it can start closing above these ever important areas on those time frames. So and then above there, just keep an eye out for the upper first in the daily, which is currently coming in around 43.6 to 7, so just slightly above the weekly resistance. So yeah, go ahead and wish you guys a wonderful day again, and thank you for hanging out. If you are subscribed, go ahead and turn on the bell for notifications, and that will let you know when I go live on the streams, and then when the Bitcoin in 60 seconds videos are uploaded to the Shorts feed. All right, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Bye-bye.